Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Red Path. It's Dara and Jamie here again today, and we're going to be talking about the state of the meta and what world leaders can do to survive in it. Okay, what's up, everyone?
Here we
So
are.
it's an interesting one today. Look, I suppose straight out the gate, it's fair enough to say that there's a lot of quite strong books out there right now. You know, the big four is what
Yeah.
everyone's talking about, right? So, um, it is considerably tougher, I would say, to be a Chaos Space Marine player in the current game than it was at the start of Ninth Edition.
Oh,
To
without a
be
doubt, without a doubt.
Yeah, I mean, we're one of the last armies to get a codex, so we have, at this point, extremely outdated rules. And yeah, it's been a little bit of a tough time for us, but we're out here, we're playing games, we're going to tournaments. Jamie, you're just back from Kagbash, right?
Yep, that's correct.
Yeah. I had a solid 2-1-2, a very
Yeah.
admirable record, I must say.
Yeah, straight
Honestly,
down the middle.
2-1-2 is like legit my favorite record to get. It's perfect. You just come out of that completely neutral.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah,
I
think 5-0 is a little better, but okay, yeah, we'll take.
I would rather have 2-1-2.
Okay, all right, fine.
I don't want no Goonhammer article written about me. But yeah, so look, we find ourselves in an interesting, I would say a precipice is a good way of describing it, where, look, we've had the official confirmation that our book is coming soonish, I think, in the next few months, hopefully. And yeah, it's just this interesting time where I think a lot of Chaos players are wondering what to do. But, like, there's still going to be tournaments between now and then, still going to be games to be played. And rather than just downing tools and waiting for that, I think it's about time we speculate a little bit on what we can do in the here and now to play the game to the best of our ability. So yeah, I guess we're going to talk a little bit about sort of the way the meta has kind of evolved and potential ways of building lists as world leader players to, I suppose, evolve with that meta and compete, alongside it. So yeah, Jamie, what do you think about all that?
So yeah, like the big four. For anyone who's maybe new to the channel, new to the game, new to World Eaters, we're talking about Custodies, we're talking about Tau, Eldar, but specifically Harlequins, and basically the new Tyranids. Right, that's what we're looking at. Those are our most likely boogeymen, kind of top armies, and defining the meta. Crusher Stampede Tyranids has been part of that, but now with the new rules, we'll see how that adapts. And exactly like you said, mate, our book is coming, but we are still using the same rules we've been using for 4 years, 5 years, however long it's been now since our codex dropped. And the good thing about that is, like, we know our rules. We know our rules inside out at this point. Like, we've had the discussion about how Fight Twice works. We know how to exploit pile-ins and consolidates and all these things. We know our rules. We're not having to scroll through our book unless it's for a bizarre leadership check or something like that. But we do need to play the game that is being played right now. I think a good example of this is, the Lord of Skulls has been super popular for us for at least a year. This is something that is, several players have used. I've used the Lord of Skulls several times in RTTs and stuff like that, and super good unit. But I think the state of the game right now doesn't have a space for a World Eater's Lord of War. I think there may be, opportunities and, potentially Iron Warriors still, maybe, things like that. But I don't think for us, just because of the sort of units we're seeing more and more frequently, that is something we necessarily really want to consider as much. I'm not saying it's a auto no, but I think where Dara and I were discussing just before recording kind of how our lists have changed a little bit. I think there are strengths that we can pull from our book that kind of play into the meta, right? Like, you'd agree with that, Dara?
Yeah, I definitely do agree. It's very much like kind of what you were saying, that like, a unit that was incredibly popular, like the Lord of Skulls, like at some point you do have to kind of sit back and say like, okay, I know it was good, but is it good right now? I've had to do that myself recently with my Leviathans,
Yeah.
which has made me quite sad because I'm a huge fan of them.
Yeah.
But like realistically, they're just not really going to be able to pull their weight in the current meta, and they don't have like a good target to go into, whatever, blah blah blah. I've done that with a lot of my lists. I've reevaluated it. I've gone back to units like the Hellblade that I had dropped for a while, and now I'm kind of like, well, they're actually a little bit more interesting now because of the type of target that they're going to be shooting into, a la Void Reavers and things like that.
Yeah.
So it's interesting how it kind of swings and roundabouts, in a sense that like units will say that I might have considered at the start of the edition and then fell out of favor with. Now I'm kind of reevaluating. I mean, everyone's already made plenty of memes about us rolling back in our opinions and the likes of Chosen and stuff. I think in the current meta, Chosen are a hot choice.
Yeah.
I would say like can't really go wrong with a squad of Chosen these days. So yeah, it's interesting how things adapt over time, how you have to kind of change your opinions and stuff. And it is an important facet of competitive 40k is to be flexible in your mindset when it comes to list building, be ready to adapt as things change. Yeah, so I definitely do agree with you on that front. I think that we're probably at a moment of change where we need to reevaluate the board and see. But it's an awkward time to be changing lists, especially with a codex on the horizon and possibly more for world leaders. We don't know. So I'm definitely less inclined to go out and actually buy new units. It's more looking at my existing collection and seeing what can I pull from this.
Exactly.
That kind of way. I was even looking at Predators.
Oh my god, it happened.
Yeah.
Alfarius in Discord, meme that please, because this gentleman sitting across from me on the screen has pissed all over my advocacy for Predators as long as we've known each other.
Hey, I would not say it in such crude terms, but I have not been as affectionate about them as you. Though in recent times, I've been looking at them again and like, you know what? Maybe.
Maybe, just maybe. But yeah, I think, so building on from that, I think there was a really good comment in, I believe it was our video on the Red Butchers. Someone made a comment on the YouTube comment section about wanting us to kind of dive in a bit more and be a bit more discussing like actual application and tactical choices rather than the broad strokes, which I think was a really good bit of feedback, and that is something I'd like us to touch on again, especially with Terminators. Maybe waiting to see how they are with a book though, just because we've just done them. However, I think given our kind of introduction here, our discussion of what the hot meta is and how this is a good time, genuinely, especially for World Eaters players, because the majority of us have probably got 5 to 10 to 20,000 points of World Eaters. We've got units to play with, right? We've got, I've got 2 Helldrakes back here, I've got a Charybdis back here, Storm Eagle, I've got all these units that I haven't used in 2-3 years. It's not a bad time to experiment because most of us are unlikely to be winning GTs, so we may as well get the reps in and try and find those little niches. So I want to kind of shift us over to units that are efficient for us. For us, we need to make sure we're very specific. These aren't units that are broken. They're not units that are going to win you your tournament. They're not hyper efficient, but within the constraints of our book, in our opinion, presumably, they are strong units for us. And I mean, you just mentioned Chosen. We did a video on Red Butchers Terminators. Berserkers are always going to be efficient if used correctly and things like that. I think, let's start off, like we talked about this before recording. The meta we're in, with Custodies being a slight exception, seems to be a lot of T3, infantry-wise, and a smattering of kind of T5, T6 vehicles generally, or vehicle types like your battle suits. I know they're technically infantry for some fucking reason, but especially the broadsides. But we have these kind of breakpoints where we have large squads of units with T3 and probably a 4-up invul, or T4 and a 4-up invul for your drones. and then we have tougher units, 3 or 4 wounds, probably fly, probably with access to an invuln or a negative hit modifier, or probably both in some cases. And we're not seeing so much T8 stuff. Now, I think Tyranids is going to change that once we get those common Tyranid lists. I think we're going to see some Nidzilla, and we're going to see some mixes of, like just psychic power onslaughts with big T8 shooting the Exocrines or whatever they are, the one that looks really dangerous right now. And then Custodies, excuse me, are just a different kind of beast. But I think there are tools that we have access to in weapon loadouts, in tactical plays, that can do okay, if not actually quite well, into some of these things. Like, you just played Tyranids. Was that earlier today or yesterday?
Yeah, today, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
So you've just played Tyranids, you've had a couple games against Tau, a couple games against Custodies and things like that over the last few weeks. What sort of... Let's start off with War Gear. What kind of weapons are you finding seem to do pretty good into these kind of list types?
It's an interesting one, yeah. I think the general strength 5/6 profile with AP1 is really useful.
Yeah.
Which is one of the ideas that I have bouncing around in my head right now is actually... So it's a tactic that I really just generally dislike doing in terms of like just alpha strike, strike hard, strike fast kind of thing. But I am playing around with the idea of a Dreadclaw drop pod with a full squad of Reaper Chain Cannon Havocs inside it, because I think they actually have quite a nice profile to shoot the infantry types, and throwing that in someone's face in the first turn is a lot to deal with. And I've said it a million times, Havoc's charging in is nothing to frown about when you're world leaders. It's really actually not that bad. Just give the sergeant 2 chainswords, and your average guy in there is kicking out 3 attacks, making maybe 1 with a stratagem. It's really not that bad, especially with Death to the False Emperor and everyone right now. They can actually kind of like pick up, we'll say, a 10-man guardsman equivalent squad, which is kind of cool, Yeah. So I like that, and in the Dreadclaw you could also have like a Lord who's giving them a bonus charge of Violent Urgency or something like that, and then maybe a couple of other like who has thrown in.
2 greater possessed.
Exactly, which we know like that's another unit that I'm really interested in right now is the Greater Possessed. I know he's had like fringe play up until now. Some people in the World Leaders group, they're bringing him and stuff, and I respect that move. I did see the play he had before, but now I think he has a wealth of targets to go into, which is quite interesting. One thing I've been playing around with a lot recently are Bloodslaughterers, running 2 of them as like sort of like an alternative to the 2 Leviathans I used to be running, which they're fun. They're kind of cheap and cheerful, 140 points. They're fantastic at being exactly what they're supposed to be, which is an annoying outrider unit that just harasses the enemy, because like you can't... The Impaler Harpoon is nice. They auto advance 6. They're really tasty. One little trick you can do, if people aren't aware of, is you can actually strat reserve them. So one thing I've been doing is strat reserving both of them with a Lord with Violent Urgency. So they just come in where they want to shoot something. They Impaler Harpoon it, and they're ending up with +3 to their charge from that if they hit it and don't kill it. So that's pretty nifty, like little tricks like that. And honestly, I have found it very useful, their ability to have the movement of the enemy when they get hit by the Harpoon. It's just like diving into the books and looking at little things like that, again, like why I think the Hellblade is nice right now. It's it's got strength 7, AP1, damage 2. That's a nice profile to be shooting in with the volume of firepower it has. And again, it's a cheap unit. It's annoying. It has an invulnerable save. It's not so easy to just pull down, and if you leave it there
straight away.
Exactly, and it's a fantastic way of scoring you engage as well, which is really important. So I think there's a lot of like interesting choices right now, and I would definitely say I'm kind of at the fuck around and find out stage, where I'm just like, this is the last run of stuff before we get our codex, before we get our nice shiny new rules. So I'm like, at this point I don't really care. Everything is a meme, and I'm just running it, and we're gonna see what sticks. That kind of a way.
I think I too I've tested out the Havoc chain cannon Havocs, and I tested them sort of roundabout when custodies dropped, and it disappointed me. But since then, we have had this wealth of things which are rocking 4-up invols and are T3 or T4, and specifically the Dreadclaw play, which I've got a couple lists with, the Reaper Havocs. I've tried Khorne, but I think the Lord for Violent Urgency is better. And then 2 squads of 2 Greater Possessed. It's 4, 5, 7 charges in turn 1. You've got a huge amount of DACA from the Reapers, and against Harlequin's Light, I believe it is, or whoever it is, which does the no rerolls within 12 inches or outside of 12 inches or whatever it is. I'm pretty sure it's Light, and I don't know, I may be confusing the rules around a bit, but
yeah, I think you're right, but I also can't really remember.
Yeah, so. There's so many, there no rerolls to hit between transhuman on hit rolls, then you can't do some rerolls, and then it's -1, whatever it is. But there's an angle there where I'm 9 inches away. I deep struck in. I'm not affected by that rule. I'm re-rolling 1s. I'll throw vets on there to wound you on 2s. -1, I'm either forcing your invul, or you're just an invul anyway, depending on what kind of cover they're in and stuff like that. And then 1 damage into Harlequins. You got 32 shots. You hit with 24 of them or something like that, and you wound with 18 of them. They're picking up 9 models. Mathematically. And I think it's very nice. And then, you've got your 6 or 7 charges into something else. You'll make a few of them, like you should do anyway. And against Tau, you've got similar things. You're picking off the drones from their crisis suit unit and things like that. And the old slaughter, oh my god, Blood Slaughterer. One of the first videos I released had a play with the Disco Lord and 3 Slaughterers coming in from Strat Reserve, +1 to charge, +1 to hit, Impaler Cannon, 6-inch charges, yes please. It's nice.
Yep. It's a play. I did try running the Disco Lord with them, and to be honest, I think he's too much of a point sink for the buffs he provide. Overall, he's cute, but he just dies when anything looks at him.
Yeah. And if he drops down to 9 wounds, like the rumours are suggesting, I think we definitely looking strongly there. But I think what we're looking at, from what you've said, and from what the experiences I've had in the current meta, volume, strength anywhere from 4 till 6, depending on what you're running. AP1 is kind of good. AP2 is okay. And AP0 is okay. But AP1 is kind of like a nice break point for general, just because of the weapons we have access to. But I like volumes of bolt fire. Even though we're running like the second worst handheld gun in the game right now, outside of the humble las gun, the Red Butchers, right? I'm running 10 Red Butchers right now. That's 40 bolt guns. I generally try and get Khorne near them when they drop, so we're getting an awful lot of hits. And again, you can vets on that. And if you've got a 4-up save and a 4-up invul, I don't need AP. There's no point in me having -3 bolt guns or whatever the hell the loyalist can get, because it's just a waste of efficiency there. So I will happily throw 40 bolt guns into a troop of Harlequin players or into the crisis suits and try and lift up their drone protection and things like that. Hell, if you're running Tyranids and they've got the 30 gaunts they can put in a blob still.
Yep.
I will murder my way through them with 40 bolt guns, re-rolling with Vets the Long War or the Reaper chain cannon.
So the gaunts, that is actually one stumbling block I found for that specific thing, because when you bring them as Leviathan, they have like baby transhuman on them as well.
Okay.
So stuff like Vets doesn't work, and actually it's annoying because your berserkers win them on 3s in combat, even with strength 6 chain axes. So they can actually kind of be a stumbling block, to be honest.
But it's still not bad.
Like I was saying to you off camera, it kind of comes out in the wash because they cost more points now. There's less of them there, so you're probably killing an equivalent amount of points overall. So it kind of balances out. I don't think it's so bad, but dude, totally. Red Butchers, They are good now, you know. They're really tasty, and like even people running the GSC and stuff, they will just pick up an awful lot of them. And I think they are, you know, they're back up there in one of my auto ticks on our Reddit list now.
I think the combination of volume fire and then quality melee into any target on the field, because quite frankly, having volume like lightning claws with the volume, the reroll to wound against 99% of opponents, custodies turn it off, but whatever, and 1 damage just works so well. Like, I would rather have 3 attacks at 1 damage than 1 attack at 3 damage at the moment, just because there is a lot of 1 wound infantry or even 2 wound infantry out there, and I would rather pick up 1 model and miss 2 than 0 models when I miss 1 attack. And I think, for instance, whether you're running Chosen with lightning claws and bolt guns, or combi bolters or flamers or whatever, or you're running red butchers or you're running berserkers, we do have access to huge amounts of volume in our attacks. It's the one thing we've got consistently. We have access to it on a number of units that I think genuinely can have play, and in my opinion, I think that's where my lists have been moving towards, is maximizing the number of dice I'm rolling. So much so that I'm gonna, depending on what my TO says, be using an app on my phone for my next RTT, just because between 10 warp talons in turn 1, 10 red butchers with their bolt guns and then all their attacks. I'm running Chosen with flamers on them right now because, okay, I can't re-roll the hits and a -1 to hit. It doesn't matter when I've got 6d6 flame attacks coming into you. You are picking up some models. And I will make my opponent roll dice. And I think the more models they have on the table, which seems to be a kind of area we're starting to head in, with, cheekily resilient troop units or infantry units, the more dice they have to roll, the more 4-up involves they fail. So I think bolt guns, flamers, Reaper chain cannons, chain swords, chain axes, lightning claws, these are primary resources, and I think we use them very well, right?
Yeah, I agree. I think, like, we have all the resources there. The issue is knowing when to apply them. So I think even more so than ever before is, like, you need to be super surgical when you commit your forces, and obviously not like overindulge and just commit them all at once. Just my recent experiences have been definitely a good lesson in that, is the application of force where it's needed, and you're only going to get that from practice by, you play your red butchers enough, you know exactly what they're going to kill. Same with your berserker squad, same with your Chosen, blah blah blah. Like, you just need to get down to T. Like, I don't need to charge 3 units in here when I know this 1 unit will kill them by themselves. Mm-hmm. So then that way, if I do have to trade out that unit, at least I'm not trading 2 more on top of it for no good reason. Yeah. I think it is really important to kind of keep that in mind. And once you get that down, your games will start to become a little bit easier. Like, more recently, I've been finding that my key combats are actually happening in like turn 4 or even turn 5 now. It's turns 1 and 2 tend to be very, very light for me these days. Like, there's almost not much going on unless there's like some weird play that I have to make out of necessity. Yeah. It's really about like understanding when to engage these tough armies and stuff like that, or like, if they push the offensive on you, how to get defensive, what you need to commit to push them off without overcommitting. So yeah, it's tough, I would say, just because our points don't go as far as many other codexes points do. So it does feel like losses in our army hurt us more when we do lose those units. So yeah, just really kind of getting that understanding, I think, is the toughest part right now. If you're trying to make the world leaders work, is just the actual like value of your units. The value of a 5-man berserker squad. It might not seem like much on points or whatever, but it's like that unit can do so much for you if you apply it in the right place. Yeah. So yeah, again, delivery mechanisms is really important for us. Like, I'm still running the drills. I'm still having success with them. I think rhinos are basically like out of the question for the time being, to transport berserkers anyway. Fair enough if you want to use them to shield cultists. I think that's not bad. But like, going up against certain Tyranid forces, Tau, Custodes, even with their jet bikes, like the rhinos just pop far too fast in my opinion. So yeah, it's a little bit tricky, I would say, to play in this meta. It's not like it's not so terrible. I think like I do still feel like Tau is an auto lose, which is lame. And I think Custodes isn't far from it, specifically because they're weirdly very good at countering us. I don't think that's like because they're like as broken as Tau. I don't think they are at all. They probably need a points tweak. Tau need more than just a points tweak, but yeah, like Custodes just happen to be the paper to our rock, I would say. And Eldar, I don't think are so bad. Harlequins need points increases as well. Again, their rules are fine, just as long as the points are appropriate. And make Void Weavers not squadronable. And then Tyranids is an interesting one. I think we haven't seen enough from them yet to really make a sweeping judgment. But yeah, it's just, look, it's a little bit tough right now, but good things are hopefully coming for us. And until then, I think we can slog it out a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, we've been fighting the long war for, it feels like almost 10,000 years at this point. It's
been a very long war.
Yes, it has. And I do agree with your analysis there of the armies. I think Tau is an uninteractive game. It's just not a game. But all the rest are very hard games. But there's wins in there. We just have to. We need everything on our side. But yeah, we still require ourselves to be on point in every decision we make on the table. We have to know, okay, so after this movement phase, I'm gonna have a charge here, and I do not want to overcommit. You've got to be making those decisions. You've got to be planning 2 rounds, or a round or 2 rounds ahead. And if you can do those things, I think there are games to be won against even strong armies. But yes, we need some respite. We need a rules update. We need to be put back. I'd be happy with being middle of the road. It's like when you hear a loyalist Marine player complain about their rules.
I'm like, man, I would kill to be you.
Yeah, like, oh, my Blood Angels, it's so hard playing Blood Angels right now. It's like, good God, you put the same amount of bodies on the field as me, you've got double the wounds, and all this extra shit. Like, good God, if I could do that.
Yeah, man. So I think that, look, there's a lesson in there, right? I think that, I will be totally honest, the game's pretty tough right now, for us as world leaders. It is a tough game to be playing. It's not the toughest it's been since I started my world leaders. Definitely not, I would say. There's been tougher metas to crack. Okay. But it's definitely up there, I think. But in saying that, if you are willing to go out there, hit some tournaments, hit some RTTs, blah, 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 just play competitive games with your mates, you will become a much better player by playing now than if you wait and play when the codex drops. Because by virtue of our army being so much worse than the other armies right now, you will pick up tricks, you'll be way more focused. You will just actually learn how to be that laser focused, how to make those really important decisions. So then when the codex does drop, that you will have these, your decision making process will be easier for you, and you will have an inbuilt knowledge from your previous experiences of okay, I understand all these things now, and the game will just come to you faster. You'll just be a better player for it, and you'll see better results rather than just kind of waiting it out. It's fine if you want to wait it out too. I totally respect that, because like I said, it's a very tough meta to be engaged with right now. If you're Chaos Space Marines, I do think it's challenging, but this is a good time for us to improve as actual players of the game, rather than necessarily world leader players. I think you can hone your decision making, your sort of concept of value in terms of your army, prioritization, all these things. I think it's a really good time to kind of just double down on those.
Yeah, I think the easiest way to think about it before we wrap up, 6 months ago when Death to the False Emperor changed, right? Do you remember your first couple of games with the new 6s auto hitting? Now, my list, I ran the same list the day before and the day after. I did adjust, for lightning claws and things after that. But just that small buff made me feel so much more able on the battlefield. It's like, oh, I'm playing Drakari and I get extra hits. This is awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I remember rolling dice and every single time, even still, I roll them and I see the 6s and I'm in my head, I'm like, man, that's so neat. You know? It's I love this.
And that was just one very minor rules change, and it changed our meta. It changed our, I'm sure it impacted our win rate because it gave us a bonus versus every opponent now. And when we get a dozen, 20 new rule changes, depending on how drastic World Eaters get touched, yes, we'll adapt, and it will take us a while to theory hammer and find our good lists and stuff. But we will have done the work. We will know how to move our Red Butchers. We will know when best to unleash the Berserker Horde. We will know, exactly what all these things do, barring a few changes in AP values here and there, and, strength going up here and there. We're going to have the due diligence done if we're playing our games now. And yet, not all of us can be Dylan Matusek. Apparently, he just doesn't care about the game and just decides to go 3-1 against Admech and everyone else at Adepticon, and we can't all be that, but we can get our reps in, we can take our lumps and get our teeth knocked out a little bit. But yeah, Dara, what movie am I going to reference right now?
Definitely one that I haven't seen anyway, I'll tell you that much for free.
No, it's Rocky 4, man. You know it. It's Rocky 4. We're getting shit kicked out.
My favorite one.
Still,
my favorite Rocky.
Favorite movie you've never seen. But we're gonna get up. Yeah. It's coming.
Yep.
Berserkers,
in a big way.
It's coming. Yeah.
I would just say it's like basically like you have a choice right now where it's like when the new codex drops, you could be building on pre-existing knowledge, foundational knowledge. You can be going from a place where you're reevaluating your current list that you already know what it does and looking at improvements, or you can be coming at it from the ground up where you haven't put the legwork in, and you can be building a list from nothing. And personally, I think it's just so much easier to go with this pre-existing knowledge because it's not so drastic of a change.
Yeah.
You're not having to look at every single thing and be like, is this good? Straight away, I'm going to be looking for my Warp Talons, my Berserkers, my Red Butchers, blah blah blah, being like, okay, how's this changed? Does this still work? Is there a better alternative?
Yeah.
Like straight away, I'm just going to be looking, do my old list work?
Yeah.
Which is like, I think, it's definitely useful, and it can be tough and discouraging to play right now, but like there's still a lot of fun to be had. I still have a good time playing into like pretty much every army except town, because like you can still play those games, you can still have fun even if you lose. You can still be like, okay, how many points can I get? How can I play this mission better? Blah blah blah. There's still play to be had into everything except town, I would say.
Except town.
But like, yeah, it's tough, but we're used to it being tough, I would say, and it's not such a bad thing. We'll become better people first.
Yes, that was a very positive way of summing that up. But yeah,
I'm a very positive person.
Look, everyone, for your World Eaters right now, into the current meta, get your Combi Bolters on your Terminators, get your Lightning Claws on absolutely everything that will take it, get your Chain Axes, your Chain Swords. Just get everything you can that's going to increase the number of dice you roll and the number of saves your opponent is going to have to roll. That's for right now. We're in the 27th of March. Okay, in a week's time, this video is going to be irrelevant, but whatever. But
soon, Knights will come out, and it will be the opposite.
We're going to need las cannons again, and mind you, Red Butchers and Berserkers are still going to be good with lightning claws because it's going to be. It's why we have Vets of the Long War anyway. But yeah, okay, I think we've kind of touched on what we needed to touch there. We've given a little bit of tactical advice. We've given a bit of a rallying war cry. We've talked about what sucks and what we can play into. So yeah. Anything else you want to add, mate, or are we done for another day?
We're still here. We're still going at it. World Leader's still going strong, even after everything that's been thrown at us. I love it. I love the community. Shout out to everyone. Can't wait to see. Players. Even Tau players.
Oh my god.
You had a tough 9th edition. I hope you're enjoying your time in the sun because God help you if Angron drops.
Oh my god.
There will be no mercy for you then.
Our turn. Yeah. We're going to get you. Yeah. But yeah, alright, I think we're done now. I think that sums it up. So yeah, enjoy your games everyone, and until next time, stay healthy, stay safe, and kill, main, burn.